Welcome back to the channel. We got the links stuffed and rebuilt, and I mentioned the skid plate setup. So right now the skid plate setup runs, it doesn't quite flow into the lower link, so I get hung up on it quite a bit, which I've learned to work around. So I'm going to redo the skid plate, lower it down a little bit. That will reduce my belly height, which will probably hurt me sometimes, but if it slides smooth, that'll help. So I may have to add some preload into the springs to negate that, but we'll see. So I'm going to try lowering that down. I can always change it if need be, but it'd be nice to have a smooth slidable surface so that I can just kind of slide, transition around the links, and shouldn't get hung up on that spot as much. So let's get that thing cut apart, up on the lift, cut apart, and start designing. All right, so with the front links, we have plenty of material here. The rear, we were all the way down already. So I just have some cardboard here like always, and I'm going to extend it down. We don't want it to hit the link though, or the heim. So we're going to have to put a slight bend in that once I cut it out. And that way it'll clear the link, and then that will give me the surface to drop this down. The other issue with doing this, you can see this is all folded up around the transfer case mount. So I have to rebuild the transfer case mount, which isn't a huge deal. Just got to do it. So pull this off real quick and start figuring out what we're going to do. All right, so for the transfer case mount, I had just welded a tube across these two tubes. I was gonna make it removable, but I actually was able to pull the transfer case out just fine with just like this. So either way, I gotta redesign it now. So I'm gonna cut all of this out from the link mounts, and that way I can start redesigning. All right, we got all the old skid plate setup all cleaned up. So now we're going to go and make these pieces to bring it down so that way we can start designing a new one. All right, so not the prettiest way to do it, but that brings it down to the same, a little bit lower than the heim, and we still have plenty of clearance to turn. So now that gives me a spot I can land the new tube setup across and allow it to slide nice and easy. Alright, so we got both of these sidebars welded in. Now we got to figure out the rear cross member for the transfer case mount, and then once that's done, we can start designing the skid. Alright, so I got two more tubes cut. These are going to be the other cross member tubes, essentially kind of turning the setup into a skid plate, which, or I mean not a skid plate, a subframe. So that way I'll have an easy spot to come across here, have some support for the skid plate as well as mount to the transfer case, and then same thing up front. All right, got those two cross member tubes in. Now we just gotta wall them out and then we can start building the transfer case mount. All right, so for the transfer case mounts, the old cross member was farther forward, so they were a lot shorter. This one, it's about 6 inches. I don't want to make tabs that long, so I'm going to bend up a hoop. Well, actually, I have a piece of scrap that'll bend right here, and then weld to this, and then the two tabs will come off that. I will leave it so it's behind the flange here, so that way we can still drop transfer case easily without any issues. So let's get that notched in real quick. All right, this is that bend ahead laying in the scrap pile from a shock hoop. So we're just going to notch this in, and then that will get the distance closer so we can make sure to tab. All right, got that all welded in. Looks kind of cool, and now the tabs can be pretty short, which will put less stress on them. So I'm gonna do that, build the tabs real quick, mount the transfer case. I just gotta set the height, which the height's set right now, and then I gotta set it side to side, make sure it's dialed, and then I can mount that thing and it's ready to drive again. All right, so we got these cut out real quick and fit. So now they're just lightly bolted in. Going to get this thing all centered, tacked, and then we'll weld that out. All right, the drivetrain is back on its own weight. I might box in these tabs a little bit later, but the transfer case will come out the side here or the back, either way, so still serviceable. A little bit harder with this front tube, but I should be able to slide everything back and drop the bell housing down if need be. So yeah, next up is the skid plate. I didn't even plan on doing this today. I kind of just jumped into it, and it is a Saturday, so the metal shop is not open, and they're not open till Tuesday. So I have 3/16 and 1/4 inch plate, but I don't have big enough pieces to do one piece skid plate setup, and I do not want to make it more than one piece. So pretty much as far as it's going to go for now. I should have planned a little bit better, but again, it happens. Didn't really plan on doing this at all, and here we are. So pretty excited about this. I did lose about 1.5 inches of my belly height, which in reality my belly height was up, but the link still hung down, so this should make it slide easy. I can add preload if need be. Hopefully I won't have to, so I guess we'll see how it does. Also, so I planned on doing a full subframe in this, just like I used in the last chassis and the future chassis. I decided not to do that for a few reasons with this rig. So this design works really well, and in order to do the subframe setup, I would pretty much have to cut all of this off and redo every bit of it. I would want to remove these. I'd want to make the whole entire truck narrower, which is a ton of work. I'd want to cut the front off and do a 4-link. And yeah, you could do rear steer on this, but this thing is dialed. It works really well. And I'm going to end up selling it and building the chassis, because the snowball, if I kept going, I'd pretty much be at a chassis anyways, so I might as well just build a chassis. So that will be coming soon. but for now this should make it work a little bit better, so I decided to go test it out. I just measured the belly height, currently right around 17.5, which is pretty low, but right now it just came off the lift, so once I go to drive it, it'll get a little bit lower as I use the suspension and it settles back to right height. So I might have to raise it up a little, but we'll see how it does. The reason I'm selling this rig, I've been asked it a lot on the social medias and stuff. I'm just at the limit of it. I can't really progress anymore with this as a driver, and I am moving into doing chassis stuff, and I figure I should build myself one, and that way I can prove that it works and use it to compete and show off and whatnot. So this thing will be pretty much finishing out this season, and yeah, I'll clean it up and put it up for sale, and if it doesn't sell, well, that's okay. I can change some parts out or keep using it. So it's going to be a really busy next couple months. Things have been kind of crazy for us for a little while. That's why I've been bouncing around a lot with different projects and not really starting a big project, but some really cool stuff's in the pipe. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.